Rosanne, hi, and
Hi.
thanks for making time to talk about your beautiful story, Vertical Hold. It's a really deeply felt story of one woman's invisibility. Your narrator is not seen by anyone or acknowledged. She says, no one remembered her anywhere. It was a rare neighbour who remembered my name. I might very well have never been born. One of four girls, she's the one who doesn't make a fuss, a noise, goes quietly about keeping everything in order in the house, unappreciated, unnoticed and unloved. She's left to look after her controlling mother. You said, Rosanne, that you write for women. Could you talk about Vertical Hold being written for women and about women?
It happened a few years ago. When I was younger, I wrote a lot from the male perspective and wrote thrillers and mysteries and car chase books because I knew a lot about men since I had never lived with a woman. And you do get to know a lot about men from relationship to relationship. However, I then had a daughter and I discovered young women and girl children, and it was rather wonderful. And she taught me a lot about life and women and men and everything, a very perceptive young woman. And from that point onward, because of my changed perspective, I could see the world through a different lens. And I experimented with writing about women. And my first book of that nature, I think, was A Funeral in Fiesole, which is one of my favorites and one of my most popular. And this story is a more recent story coming from the experience of learning how to write from that perspective, because everything, of course, is a learning curve. And my admiration and my understanding and my ability to view women has changed, improved because of what I have learned. And my writing, as a result, even in little stories like this one, has taken a turn for the more mature, not only because of my age, but because of my changed experiences.
Well, that's a great answer. And so you're making women visible by writing about and for women too. Your narrator does try to be noticed, though, Rosanne. How does she try to be noticed?
Well, she tries not to rock the boat, but she does things without, she doesn't like to ask for things because there is other conflict and other changes in the house that she would rather not add to. So keeping in the background, she wants attention, but wouldn't like to make too much fuss because there is already too much going on. There's too much loss and lack of attention and control from the mother, who seems to want to be in charge of everything because, of course, what she doesn't have much control over four daughters who are going to grow up and go away. But this girl, in spite of being the least loved, she thought, was the one to stay on and look after the controlling mother after everybody else had gone.
Yes, and she says, your narrator says, if one is invisible, one's emotions are imperceptible.
Yes,
too.
Of course, if you don't make any fuss and you never exclaim or protest about anything, then your emotions are hidden. Nobody notices them, and nobody, because they think you're all right. So why?
But there's a flash of emotion from your narrator when she says, Lottie was the baby who got everything. listen, everything. It really flashes out in the narrative. Can you tell us what that says about your character, saying that so emphatically?
Well, it says that even though Lottie did very little to gain attention, she was the littlest one. She had the love, the care, and of course she made a lot of noise, so everybody noticed her. And when somebody stops you and says, listen, they are demanding a kind of attention that speaks of silence and endurance from before. It's the experience of invisibility.
Yeah, it was one sort of strong point. She jumped out in the story and just said, listen, everything.
Yeah.
She says that vertical hold made me imagine a grip on a predictable family, a preventative, a cure for uncertainty. What did your narrator mean by that?
Well, it's difficult to pin it down because, of course, although this is a purely fictional story, it does rise from the experience that I feel all women endure at some point, of feeling that nobody understands, feeling ignored, feeling uncared for, feeling a bit of neglect. There may be other siblings, there may be other things going on in a family. And that moment, I felt, needs to be observed in writing so that women, this is why I say I write for women, so that women can relate, so that they can feel they're not alone, that all women, especially younger women, go through that stage. The older you get to my stage and you know a lot about it, but you don't know. You think it's just you. You think you are unlovable when you are young. You think it's something you've done that makes you invisible.
And stories give us a shared experience, don't they?
Oh, yes. Generally, I mean, how different can it get? I have heard your other writers talking about family violence and difficult situations. And although it may not get that extreme with all of us, we all endure a kind of suffering as we are reaching maturity, as we are going through that young phase of exhaustion, of new situations, of going into a relationship, maybe having children. We all feel that sensation of being ignored, of being unappreciated, being invisible. And that's what I would like my readers, pardon me, my readers to relate to.
And you say in the last sentence is so poignant, Rosanne. We now hear her name, which is not until the very end. Cecily leads her mother into the church, and I take her unsteady upper arm in what might be called a vertical hold, where all the candles blaze and not a single one of the statue plaster faces shows the least little sign of loneliness. What were you wanting to leave the reader with by finishing off at that point, Rosanne?
That last word. I always put the theme emotion of a story at the end. The theme emotion here is, of course, you can see it throughout that it's being ignored, being neglected. However, that's what happens to you. What you feel as a result is loneliness. And that's the last word in the story. And that's what it's all about. We all feel that castaway feeling of being really lonely in a profound way. and you try to look for it everywhere. Could it be that I'm the only lonely one? You look for it everywhere, even in statues in a church. Has anybody felt as lonely as this?
She doesn't find solace there.
No.
So Rosanne, that's beautifully spoken about. Thank you so much. And could you now read a section of your story, please?
Certainly. I have picked a piece that we haven't spoken about, and that's the father. Because, of course, if you have 4 daughters, there must have been a father.
Yes, that was a funny line, that there must have been a father featured at some point.
There must have been somebody to do all that. So I'll read these 100 words and leave you with it. And thank you for the opportunity. It's fabulous.
Our pleasure.
Yes, you must have wondered whether there was a father in the picture, which inevitably there was, for 4 daughters to even stage an appearance. Donny Edgerton, lean and inconspicuous, affectionate and patient, nevertheless had 3 very visible daughters, and me. And Lottie was his favorite. No one knew what happened to him after he went out for cigarettes one May evening, failing to return even after the long twilight, after the dark settled and the spring chill rose from under the jonquil bulbs he tended, after everyone forgot it was my birthday, after the half-hearted searches and inquiries, after questions stopped being asked, perhaps that was when everything hardened or softened and turned to rot, slow rot. But how was I to know? I was 7, and little Lottie barely out of nappy.
Thank you so much, Rosanne, and congratulations again on being on the 10 shortlist story.
Oh, it's so thrilling. I can't wait till the 10th.
Thank you, Rosanne. Bye.
Thank you very much.